The silence that followed was absolute. Hana lay on the crystal table, her heart still beating, her mind still full of Minji. Around her, the other 11 humans were breathing hard, like they had run a marathon. The scanning arrays powered down, their glow fading to darkness. "It is gone," Velshara said, its voice filled with disbelief. "The Devourer has left your solar system." Through the ship's walls, Hana could see Earth below, still spinning, still alive. 8 billion people still existed. The Devourer had touched their world and retreated. It had tried to feed and found only pain. "Did we win?" Nari asked weakly. "You won," Kale confirmed. "Humanity just defeated something that has destroyed civilizations 1,000 times older than yours. You did it with nothing but emotion. With memory. With love." The humans were disconnected from the scanning array one by one. Hana sat up slowly, her body shaking. She felt exhausted, like she had lived an entire lifetime in those few minutes. In a way, she had. She had experienced every moment with Minji all over again, compressed into the pauses between heartbeats. "How do you feel?" Velshara asked her. Hana thought about it. Tired, sad, but also whole. Like I said goodbye properly this time. The alien's color shifted to a soft purple. "You used your grief as a weapon. You turned your pain into protection. That is remarkable." "It wasn't a weapon," Hana said quietly. "It was just love. Love doesn't stop when someone dies. It keeps going. It fills all the empty spaces." News came from Earth. The synchronized moment had worked perfectly. Across every continent, in every city and village, humans had stopped and felt. The global consciousness had created exactly what Velshara predicted, a barrier so dense with emotion that the Devourer could not penetrate it. There were celebrations worldwide. People danced in the streets. They cried and laughed and held each other. They had faced something impossible and survived. Not through violence or technology, but through being human in the most fundamental way. The Galactic Assembly called an emergency session. Representatives from thousands of species watched the recordings of what Earth had done. They saw 8 billion humans synchronizing their consciousness. They saw the Devourer retreat. They could not believe it. "How is this possible?" one representative asked. "Humans are so primitive. No faster than light travel, no energy shields, barely any space presence. How did they defeat something we have fled from for thousands of years?" Velshara presented its findings. It showed the brain scans, the measurements of the pauses between heartbeats, the density of human consciousness. It explained how humans experience time differently than every other known species. "They do not experience existence as a continuous stream," Velshara told the assembly. "They experience it as individual moments separated by pauses. And in those pauses, they pack an impossible amount of consciousness. Memory, imagination, emotion, choice, all existing simultaneously in spaces smaller than we can measure. That should make them weaker," another representative said. "Fragmented consciousness is unstable." "It should," Velshara agreed. "But for humans it does not. They are not weakened by their fragmenting. They are strengthened by it. Each pause is a death and rebirth. Thousands of times per day they die and choose to return. They are practicing survival in every moment of their existence," Kale added its own analysis. "Human consciousness exists in quantum superposition between heartbeats. They experience multiple states at once and then collapse into a single choice. This is how they create, how they imagine, how they hope. They live in possibilities, not just reality." The assembly listened in silence. Finally, the head representative spoke. "What do you recommend?" "I recommend we learn from them," Velshara said. "Humanity has something we have lost or never had. They fill the emptiness we fear. They make weapons from love. They turn suffering into strength. They are not the most advanced species, but they may be the most resilient." "Should we offer them membership in the assembly?" someone asked. "Eventually, yes, but not yet. They are not ready for that responsibility. They barely understand what they did today. Give them time to grow, to develop, to understand themselves better. Then welcome them as equals." Back on the ship, Hana and the other volunteers were preparing to return to Earth. They had been in space for nearly a month. They wanted to go home. Before they left, Velshara came to say goodbye. It met with each human individually. When it was Hana's turn, the alien took her to a quiet observation room overlooking Earth. "Thank you," Velshara said simply. "You saved your species. You also taught mine something valuable." "What did we teach you?" Hana asked. "That emptiness does not have to be feared. that the spaces between moments can be filled with meaning instead of dread. You humans live in those spaces constantly. You die and return with every heartbeat. We thought that was a weakness. We were wrong. It is your greatest strength. What will you do now? Hana asked. I will continue studying life across the galaxy, but I will do it differently. I will look for what fills the empty spaces, not just what exists in the obvious places. You have changed how I see consciousness itself. Velshara paused, its colors flickering through a rainbow of shades. May I ask you something personal? Of course. Your wife, Minji. When you think of her between heartbeats, is she alive again? In those tiny moments, does she exist? Hana considered the question carefully. She exists in my memory and my love. That's a kind of existence. Not physical, but real. Every time I remember her, she lives again for a fraction of a second. Then my heart beats and she is gone again, but I know she will return in the next pause. You carry her with you, Velshara said. In every moment, in every pause. She is dead but also alive. Absent but also present. Yes, Hana said. That's grief. But it's also love. They exist together in the spaces between heartbeats. The alien was quiet for a long time. Then it said, I understand now why the devourer could not consume you. There is no emptiness in human consciousness because you fill it with people who are gone. You carry your dead with you, not as burdens but as treasures. You turn loss into presence, Hana smiled sadly. We don't forget. We can't forget. Every person we love becomes part of us. They fill the pauses forever. She returned to Earth the next day. The ship landed in Seoul, the same place it had appeared a month ago. Thousands of people came to see the volunteers return. They were called heroes, though Hana did not feel like one. She had just done what felt natural. She had filled the emptiness with love. Life slowly returned to normal. The aliens stayed in orbit, continuing their research but no longer scanning humans. They were simply observing, learning. Velshara visited Earth often, attending conferences and meetings, helping humanity understand what they had done and what it meant for their future. Hana went back to her job at the hospital. Back to her surgeries, her patients, her routine, but something had changed. She was more aware now of the pauses between heartbeats. She felt them more clearly, and in those pauses she was deliberate about what she put there. Sometimes she thought of Minji remembering their life together. Sometimes she thought of her patients hoping they would heal. Sometimes she thought of the future, imagining what humanity might become now that they knew their own strength. One evening, she stood on the hospital roof, looking at the sky. Somewhere up there, the Galactic assembly ships were orbiting. Somewhere out in the cosmos, the devourer was retreating. And everywhere on Earth, 8 billion hearts were beating lub-dub, lub-dub. In the pause between beats, Hana lived. She remembered. She hoped. She loved. She filled the emptiness with everything that made her human. Then her heart beat again and she returned to the present moment. But she knew that in the next pause she would live again, in the pause after that, and the one after that, forever, until her heart stopped beating for good. But even then she thought maybe she would not disappear. Maybe she would live on in other people's pauses, the way Minji lived on in hers, memory passing from heart to heart, filling the spaces between beats for generations to come. That was humanity's real strength. Not that they filled their own emptiness, but that they filled each other's. Every person who was loved became immortal in the pauses between heartbeats. Every memory became a shield against the void. Every emotion became a weapon against darkness. Hana placed her hand over her heart and felt it beating. Strong and steady. Alive. In the pause that followed, she thought of everyone she had ever loved. Minji most of all, but also her parents, her friends, her colleagues, her patients. Every person who had touched her life and left a mark. They all existed in that pause, crowded together, filling every bit of space with their presence. Then her heart beat again. The pause ended. But Hana knew it would return in less than a second. Another pause. Another moment to fill. Another chance to live in the spaces between time. That was what it meant to be human. To exist in fragments and call it wholeness. To die and return and call it living. To carry the dead and call it love. Between every heartbeat, infinity. Between every heartbeat, memory. Between every heartbeat, humanity. The warning went out to Earth within hours. Every government received the message. Every news station broadcast it. Every phone buzzed with emergency alerts. The Galactic Assembly explained what was coming. what the Devourer was and what humanity needed to do to survive. At first, people did not believe it. Aliens were real, and that was shocking enough. But a cosmic monster that ate consciousness? That sounded like bad science fiction. Many thought it was a hoax or a strange experiment. Then the Galactic Assembly showed proof. Recordings from destroyed worlds, images of the Devourer moving through space, testimonies from species that had barely escaped it. The evidence was overwhelming. Within a day, the world understood. The threat was real. Panic started in some cities. But it did not spread far. Perhaps humans were too shocked to panic properly. Perhaps the strangeness of the situation made normal fear seem pointless. Or perhaps people simply did not know how to be afraid of something so impossible. Hana spent those days working with Velshara and the other scientists. They built devices that could broadcast signals to the entire planet at once. They wrote speeches explaining what people needed to do. They created a plan. It must be synchronized, Velshara explained to the world leaders on a video call. All humans must experience strong emotion at the same moment. The combined density of 8 billion consciousnesses filling 8 billion pauses will create a temporal barrier. The Devourer will not be able to penetrate it. What emotion? Asked the president of Brazil. What should people feel? Anything strong, Kale answered. Love, grief, joy, hope. Any emotion that fills you completely. The content matters less than the intensity. How long do we need to maintain it? Asked the Prime Minister of India. 1 minute, Velshara said. 60 seconds of synchronized, intense emotion. Your hearts will beat approximately 60 to 80 times in that minute. Each pause will be filled. That should be enough. The date was set. 3 days from now at exactly noon Greenwich Mean Time, every human on Earth would stop what they were doing. They would feel. They would remember. They would fill the pauses between their heartbeats with everything that made them human. Hana volunteered to be part of the core group. 12 humans who would be connected to the aliens' most advanced scanning array. They would serve as anchors, their consciousness helping to coordinate the global effort. The aliens could not feel emotions the way humans did, but they could measure them and broadcast the patterns. The other volunteers agreed immediately. Even knowing the risks, they wanted to help. They had seen what the Devourer could do. They would not let it take Earth without a fight. On the day before the Devourer's arrival, Hana stood in the scanning chamber with the others. Velshara and its team worked around them, setting up equipment. Massive crystal arrays surrounded the 12 humans, each one designed to measure and amplify their consciousness. This will be uncomfortable, Velshara warned them. We are going to scan you deeper than before. We need to measure not just your pauses, but what you experience in them. We will see your memories, your emotions, your dreams. Nothing will be private. We understand, Hana said. The others nodded. Privacy did not matter when the world was ending. There is another risk, Kale added quietly. The scanning array will make you visible to the Devourer. It will notice you first before the rest of Earth. It may try to consume you specifically. Will we die? Neri asked, her voice steady. We do not know, Velshara admitted. No one has ever tried to fight the Devourer directly. But yes, you might die. Your consciousness might be consumed before you can complete the broadcast. Then we better feel something worth dying for, Quan said with a small smile. That night, Hana could not sleep. She lay in her room on the alien ship, looking at pictures of Minji on her phone. She had thousands of pictures. Minji laughing. Minji sleeping. Minji at work, at home, on vacation. Each picture was a memory, and each memory was precious. Tomorrow, Hana would fill the pauses between her heartbeats with these memories. She would make them so bright, so intense, so real that they would burn anything that tried to touch her consciousness. She would protect Earth by loving her dead wife one more time. The morning came too quickly. The 12 humans gathered in the scanning chamber. They lay down on crystal tables arranged in a circle. Above them, massive arrays of alien technology hummed with power. Velshara moved between them, checking connections and readings. The Devourer will arrive in 4 hours, the alien said. We will begin the connection process now. It will take time to fully link all 12 of you to the global network. One by one, the humans were connected. Hana felt something like warm electricity flowing through her body as the machines activated. It did not hurt, but it felt strange, foreign. She could sense the others around her, their presence like distant stars in her mind. Can you hear me? Velshara's voice came through the connection, speaking directly into their thoughts. All of you? 11 voices answered yes. The connection was working. Good, now we wait. When the devourer arrives, you will know. You will feel its presence. That is when you must fill yourselves with emotion. Remember, imagine, feel. Do it as intensely as you can. The rest of humanity will follow your pattern. The hours passed slowly. Hana lay still, feeling her heartbeat, lub-dub, lub-dub. In each pause she practiced. She thought of Minji. She filled those tiny moments with love and loss and memory. She made them as full as possible. Then suddenly she felt it. A coldness. An absence. Something wrong with reality itself. The devourer had arrived. Through the ship's walls she could not see it. But she felt it. Everyone on Earth felt it. A presence that was not a presence. A thing that existed by not existing. It was hunger made into a concept. Emptiness made into a being. It is here. Velshara said, its voice tight with fear. Begin now. Fill yourselves. Show it what humanity is. Hana closed her eyes and thought of Minji. Not just gentle memories this time. She thought of everything. The day they met. Their first kiss. Their wedding. Every argument they ever had and every reconciliation. The trips they took and the quiet evenings at home. The time Minji got sick and Hana stayed by her side for 3 days without sleep. The moment Hana learned about the accident. The funeral. The grief that came after, so heavy she thought it would crush her. All of it. Every moment. Packed into the pauses between heartbeats. Around her, the others did the same. Nari thought of music. Every note she had ever played, every emotion she had felt while playing. Jiho remembered every patient he had saved and every patient he had lost. Quan recalled decades of poetry, of beauty captured in words. Taeyang thought of equations and discoveries, the joy of understanding the universe. Each of them filled their pauses with what made them who they were. The scanning arrays amplified their consciousness, broadcasted across the planet. Every human on Earth received the signal and understood what to do. 8 billion people stopped. 8 billion hearts paused. And in those pauses, 8 billion minds filled the emptiness with everything they had. Hana felt the devourer probing at her. It touched the edges of her consciousness, searching for a gap, an empty space to flow into. But there were no empty spaces. Between every heartbeat was Minji. Love and loss and memory so bright and hot and real that the devourer recoiled from it. It burns, Kale said with wonder in its voice. Human consciousness actually burns it. The devourer pushed harder. It was hungry. It wanted to feed, but everywhere it reached it found the same thing. Fullness, density, overwhelming emotion. Not just from the 12 in the scanning chamber, but from every human on the planet. Mothers remembering their children. Children remembering their parents. Friends remembering friends. Lovers remembering lovers. Artists remembering art. Scientists remembering discovery. Everyone remembering something, feeling something, being something so intensely that there was no room for emptiness. The devourer tried to push through the barrier. Hana felt its hunger, its rage. It did not understand. There should be void here. There should be gaps it could exploit. But there was nothing but human consciousness, dense and bright and burning. The devourer screamed. It had no voice, but Hana heard it anyway. A sound like reality tearing, the sound of a predator encountering prey that fought back, the sound of hunger meeting something it could not consume, and then suddenly it retreated. 3 weeks into the research, Velshara called an emergency meeting. All 12 human volunteers gathered in the main conference room. The alien's crystal body flickered with colors they had not seen before. Dark purples and deep reds, colors that meant worry. We need to tell you the truth, Velshara said. About why we are really here. The room went silent. Hana felt her heart beat faster. She had suspected the aliens were not telling them everything. Now she would finally learn what they were hiding. There is something in the universe, Velshara began. We call it the Devourer. It is not a creature or a species. It is something else. Something that exists in the spaces between moments. Kyle pulled up a holographic display. It showed darkness, pure absolute darkness, but the darkness moved, flowing like liquid through space. The Devourer feeds on consciousness, Velshara continued. It hunts species across the galaxy. We have lost entire civilizations to it. Billions of lives. Gone in moments. How does it kill? Jiho asked. He was a surgeon. He understood death. It enters the gaps in consciousness, Kyle explained. Every species experiences tiny moments when their thoughts pause. Microseconds when the brain processes information. The Devourer lives in those gaps. It flows into minds through the emptiness and consumes everything it finds there. Taeyang leaned forward, but humans experience gaps all the time. Between every heartbeat, we should be easy prey. Exactly, Velshara said. That is why we came to Earth. When we detected the quantum signatures from your planet, we assumed the Devourer had already found you. We came expecting to find a dead world or a world under attack. But Earth was fine, Hana said, understanding. So you wanted to know why? Yes, you humans should be the perfect prey for the Devourer. Your consciousness fragments thousands of times per day. You have more gaps, more pauses, more empty spaces than any species we know. The Devourer should have consumed your entire planet millions of years ago. The humans looked at each other. Nari spoke first. Maybe it never found us. It found you, Velshara said firmly. We have records. The Devourer passed through your solar system 4,000 years ago. It should have destroyed you then. But it did not. It avoided your planet entirely. Why? Hana asked. That is what we have been trying to understand. And now after studying you, we think we know. Velshara's color shifted to bright gold. Excitement. Your pauses are not empty. The Devourer feeds on emptiness, on void, on the absence of thought. But you humans never have empty pauses. You fill every gap with something. Kyle brought up new displays showing human brain activity. Look at these scans. Between heartbeats, when other species show decreased activity, you show increased activity. When other species show emptiness, you show fullness. Memory, emotion, imagination, thought. You pack an enormous amount of consciousness into those tiny spaces. So the Devourer can't feed on us because there's nothing empty for it to consume, Taeyang said. More than that, Velshara said. We believe the Devourer tried to feed on humans once, 4,000 years ago when it passed through your system. But instead of finding emptiness, it found overwhelming fullness. Human emotion is so dense, so intense, so packed with meaning that it actually hurt the Devourer. The alien paused, its colors flickering between gold and blue. We think you burned it. Your consciousness is so concentrated in those pauses that it acts as a weapon against beings that feed on void. That's impossible, Jiho said. We're just people. We're not weapons. You are not weapons by choice, Velshara agreed. But you are weapons by nature. The very thing that makes you human. The way you experience time in fragments. The way you fill every pause with infinite feeling. That makes you toxic to the Devourer. Hana thought about all the times her heart had paused. Millions of times in her life. In each pause she had carried something. Sometimes it was a memory of Minji. Sometimes it was worry about a patient. Sometimes it was joy, fear, hope, grief. Never once had those pauses been empty. There was always something there. If we're protected, Nari said slowly, why are you worried? Your colors show worry. Velshara's colors darkened again. Because our presence here has drawn attention. Our research, our scans, our instruments, they send signals across space and time. The Devourer notices these signals. You've told it we're here, Hana said, her voice flat. Not intentionally, but yes, the Devourer knows about Earth now. It knows we are studying you. And it will be curious about why. Quan, the old poet, laughed. It was a dry sound, but not frightened. So you came here to study why we survived the Devourer, and in doing so, you've brought it back to us. Yes, Velshara said. There was shame in its voice. We are sorry. We did not think it would notice. We were wrong. When will it arrive? Taeyang asked. Soon, days perhaps. A week at most. The humans sat in silence for a long moment. Then Hana spoke. Can we fight it? No, Velshara said. Not with weapons. It is not physical. It exists between moments. Our weapons pass through it without effect. But we heard it before, Hana said. Just by being ourselves. Just by filling our pauses with feeling. That was passive defense. 1 or 2 humans the Devourer can avoid. But an entire planet of billions? That was different. It could feel your collective presence from far away. That is why it avoided Earth before. So we need to do it again, Jiho said. All of us, together. Velshara's colors flickered with uncertainty. We do not know if it will work. Last time the Devourer simply left. This time it knows you are here. It may try to fight through the pain. What happens if it succeeds? Nari asked quietly. It will consume every human consciousness on Earth. 8 billion minds gone, absorbed into the void. Earth will become a dead planet full of living bodies with no one inside them. The horror of that image settled over the room. Hana felt cold. She thought about her patients back home, her colleagues, her friends, all of them reduced to empty shells. "We need to warn Earth," she said. "We have already sent messages to your governments," Velshara said. "They are preparing, but there is not much they can do. This is not a fight that can be won with armies or weapons. It's a fight that will be won with hearts," Quan said softly. "With what we carry between our heartbeats." The old poet looked around at the others. "We fill the emptiness." That is what the alien said. "So we need to fill it completely. Every human on Earth needs to fill every pause with as much feeling as possible. We need to make ourselves so bright, so full, so overwhelming that the devourer cannot touch us." "How do we do that?" Nari asked. "We remember," Hana said, understanding. "We remember everyone we've loved, everyone we've lost, every moment of joy and pain and hope. We pack those pauses with everything that makes us human." Velshara watched them with what might have been admiration. "You understand quickly." "Yes, that is what we believe will work, but it requires all of you. Every human on Earth, experiencing strong emotions at the same time, creating a collective density of consciousness that the devourer cannot penetrate." "How do we coordinate 8 billion people?" Taiyang asked. "We broadcast," Hana said. "We tell everyone what's happening. We ask them to remember, to feel, to be as human as possible. Will they listen?" Jiho wondered. "They have to," Quan said. "Because if they don't, we all die. Not just our bodies, our minds, our souls, everything that makes us who we are." Velshara's colors shifted to a soft blue. "You are brave. All of you. We brought this danger to your world and you do not blame us. You only think about how to survive." "Blame doesn't help," Hana said. "Survival helps. Protection helps. We can be angry later. Right now we need to prepare." The alien nodded, a gesture it had learned from humans. "We will help you however we can. Our technology, our knowledge, our resources, they are yours." The meeting ended with plans being made, messages to be sent, broadcasts to be prepared. The humans had days to get ready for something they did not fully understand. A battle that would not be fought with weapons but with feelings, with memory, with the contents of the pauses between heartbeats. As Hana returned to her room, she felt her heart beating steadily. In the pause between beats, she thought of Minji. She filled that tiny moment with love, with grief, with memory. The devourer was coming, and humanity would face it with the only weapons they had, their hearts, their minds, and the infinite depth of human emotion packed into spaces too small to see. The tests continued for 2 weeks. Every day, the 12 human volunteers went through new examinations. The aliens measured their hearts, their brains, their blood. They watched the humans sleep, eat, and think. They recorded everything. Hana learned that Velshara was not just any scientist. It was the lead xenobiologist for the entire Galactic Assembly, an organization of thousands of alien species working together. Velshara had studied life across the galaxy for 300 years. It had seen things Hana could barely imagine. "You are remarkable," Velshara told her one morning. "All of you humans are remarkable. We thought we understood biology. We were wrong." A young alien named Kale joined the research team. Kale's species looked almost human, but its skin was silver and its eyes had no pupils. It was a mathematician, brought in to help analyze the data. Kyle was fascinated by the humans and asked endless questions. "Do you know you are doing it?" Kale asked Hana during one session. "The thing with time?" "What thing?" Hana replied. "Between your heartbeats, time does not work normally for you. Our instruments show tiny distortions like ripples in water. You exist in those pauses differently than you exist when your heart beats." Hana tried to understand. "I don't feel different." "That is what makes it so interesting," Kale said. "You do not notice because it is normal for you. But we notice. We see it clearly. When your heart pauses, you slip slightly out of regular time." Velshara brought in more scientists. They built new instruments specifically to study the pauses between heartbeats. They tested each human volunteer dozens of times. The results were always the same. Every single human showed the same pattern. One day they tested Nari, a young woman who played violin in the Seoul Philharmonic Orchestra. They asked her to imagine playing music while they scanned her. Nari closed her eyes and thought about Beethoven's Violin Concerto. One of her favorite pieces. The instruments went wild. "She is experiencing multiple states at once," one scientist said, its voice high with excitement. In the pause between heartbeats, she is not just hearing one note. She is hearing every possible note. Then when her heart beats, she chooses one. Velshara watched the displays in silence. Finally it said, "Play your violin for us. We need to see this happening in real time." They brought Nari's violin to the ship. She stood in the examination room surrounded by floating instruments and began to play. The music was beautiful, filling the crystal chamber with sound. Hana watched from the observation area along with the other volunteers. As Nari played, the instruments recorded everything. Her heartbeat synchronized with the rhythm of the music. In the pauses between beats, her brain activity exploded into complex patterns. The aliens' displays showed something that looked like a tree with infinite branches, all existing at the same moment. "She is experiencing superposition," Kyle whispered. "True quantum superposition of consciousness. This should be impossible in biological life." After Nari finished playing, Velshara explained what they had discovered. "When you play music," it told Nari, "your mind exists in multiple states between heartbeats. You hear every possible note, every possible rhythm, every possible variation. Then your heart beats and you collapse all those possibilities into one choice. You choose which note to play. But for that brief moment, you experienced all of them." Nari looked confused. "I just play what feels right. I don't think about all the other notes." "You do not think about them consciously," Velshara said. "But your mind processes them anyway. In those tiny pauses, you explore infinite possibilities and select one. This is how you create art. This is how you create anything new." They tested Jiho next, a trauma surgeon who worked at the same hospital as Hana. They showed him videos of emergency surgeries and asked him to imagine performing them. The results were even more dramatic. "Time stretches for him," Kyle said, amazed. "In the pause between heartbeats, he experiences subjective minutes while only microseconds pass in reality. He makes complex decisions in spaces of time too small to measure." Jiho confirmed it. "During difficult surgeries, everything seems to slow down. I have time to think, to consider my options, to choose the best action. I always thought it was just adrenaline." "It is not adrenaline," Velshara said. "You're experiencing time differently. In the gaps between your heartbeats, your consciousness expands. You live longer in those pauses than should be physically possible." The scientists brought in Quan, an elderly man who wrote poetry. He was 78 years old and had volunteered because he wanted an adventure before he died. When they scanned him, they found something new. "He carries echoes," a scientist said. "His neural patterns show that he is not just experiencing the current pause. He carries forward emotional resonance from previous pauses, from millions of previous pauses." Velshara studied Quan's scans carefully. "You remember things between heartbeats? Not just current memories, but the feeling of remembering those memories before. Every pause contains traces of every previous pause." Quan smiled. "That's what poetry is, capturing a feeling that exists in the space between moments." Hana began to understand what made them special. Humans did not experience time as a smooth river like other species. They experienced it as individual drops of water, each one separate but connected. Between each heartbeat was a world of experience, thought, and feeling. Other species missed those worlds entirely. "Why are we like this?" Hana asked Velshara one evening. They were alone in the observation room looking at Earth through the crystal walls. "We do not know," the alien admitted. "Evolution usually favors continuous consciousness. It is more efficient. But somehow your species developed this fragmented way of experiencing time, and instead of being weaker for it, you became stronger. You became more creative, more emotional, more capable of complex thought." "You say we fragment," Hana said, "but it doesn't feel like breaking apart. It feels like being whole." "Perhaps that is the key," Velshara said. "You die a little bit with every pause, and you are reborn with every beat. Thousands of times per day, you die and return. Any other species would go mad from this. But you do not even notice. To you, this is simply life." Taiyang, one of the other volunteers who was a physicist, proposed a theory. He had been working with Kale, trying to understand the mathematics of what the aliens had discovered. "Human consciousness exists partially outside normal time," Taiyang said. "When our hearts pause, we slip into quantum superposition. We exist in multiple states at once. We experience multiple possibilities simultaneously. Then when our hearts beat again, we collapse back into a single state, a single choice. But we keep the memories of those other states," Hana added, understanding. "That's why we can imagine things, why we can dream, why we can create. We're constantly experiencing other possibilities and bringing pieces of them back with us." Velshara looked at the humans gathered in the room. 12 ordinary people who were actually extraordinary. The Galactic Assembly will want to study you for years, decades. You are unlike anything we have ever encountered. What makes us so different? Nari asked. So special? You fill the emptiness, Velshara said simply. Every other species we know experiences the pauses between heartbeats as nothing. Empty time, dead time. But you humans fill those pauses with everything, with memory, imagination, emotion, choice. You take the smallest moments and make them infinite. Hana thought about this as she went to sleep that night. She placed her hand over her heart and felt it beating. Between each beat was a pause so brief she had never paid attention to it before. But now she knew. In that pause she was living, truly living, experiencing the full complexity of being human in a space smaller than a blink. The alien ship appeared over Seoul on a Tuesday morning. It looked like a crystal flower floating in the sky, each petal glowing with soft blue light. People stopped on the streets and stared. Some took pictures. Others called their families. No one panicked, not yet. The ship was beautiful, not frightening. Dr. Hana Kim was in surgery when the news reached the hospital. She was repairing a damaged heart valve, her hands steady as always. The head nurse whispered about the ship, but Hana did not look up from her work. The patient needed her. Everything else could wait. 2 hours later, when the surgery was done and the patient was stable, Hana finally checked her phone. 53 messages. The government wanted to see her. They did not say why, but she could guess. She was one of the best heart doctors in the country. If the aliens wanted to study humans, they would need someone who understood how human bodies worked. She was right. The meeting room was full of important people. Military generals, scientists, government officials. They all looked worried. At the head of the table sat something that was not human. It looked like a sculpture made of pale crystal, but it moved and breathed. Light flickered inside it like thoughts moving through a brain. I am Velshara, the alien said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am a scientist. We have come to study your species. Why? Asked the defense minister. His hand was near his weapon, even though everyone knew bullets would do nothing to beings who could cross space itself. Because your planet sings, Velshara said. We detected strange signals from Earth, quantum vibrations that should not exist in biological life. We need to understand what causes them. The room went quiet. No one knew what quantum vibrations meant in this context. Finally, someone asked Velshara what they needed. Test subjects, the alien said. Humans who will let us study them. We will not harm them. We only wish to measure and observe. That was how Hana found herself on the alien ship 3 days later. She was one of 12 volunteers. The others included a soldier, a teacher, a musician, and a grandmother who said she wanted to see space before she died. They were all nervous but curious. The aliens had been polite so far. They gave the humans food and comfortable rooms. They answered questions through translators that spoke perfect Korean. The examination room looked like something from a hospital, but everything was made of the same crystal material as Velshara. Smooth surfaces glowed with gentle light. Strange instruments floated in the air, hovering without any visible support. Please lie down, Velshara said to Hana. This will not hurt. Hana lay on the crystal table. It was warm and comfortable, adjusting to fit her body. Above her, the floating instruments began to move. They did not touch her, but she felt something like warm water washing over her skin. The aliens were scanning her. Velshara stood nearby, watching displays that only it could see. Other aliens moved around the room, all focused on their work. Hana tried to stay calm. She thought about her work, about her patients, about anything that would keep her mind busy. Then she thought about Minji. Minji had been her wife. They had met in medical school, fallen in love over late-night study sessions, and shared dreams of helping people. They had 15 beautiful years together before the accident. A drunk driver, a wet road, and suddenly Hana was alone. That was 3 years ago, but the pain was still fresh. Sometimes Hana would forget for a moment, reach for her phone to text Minji, and then remember. Those moments were the worst. Stop, Velshara said suddenly. The instruments froze in place. Please do not move, Dr. Kim. What's wrong? Hana asked. Nothing is wrong, Velshara said, but its voice sounded strange. Confused. I am seeing something unexpected. Tell me, what were you thinking just now? Hana hesitated. I was thinking about my wife. She died 3 years ago. You were remembering her? Yes. The alien was quiet for a long moment. The translator struggled with whatever Velshara said next, producing only broken sounds. Finally, words came through. I need to measure you again. Please think about her once more. This request felt invasive, but Hana agreed. She closed her eyes and let herself remember. Minji's smile. The way she laughed at bad jokes. The feeling of her hand in Hana's. The last time they said goodbye, not knowing it would be the last time ever. The instruments began their scan again. Hana's heart beat steadily in her chest. Lub-dub, lub-dub. Between each beat was a tiny pause, a fraction of a second when her heart rested before beating again. She never thought about those pauses. No one did. They were just part of being alive. But Velshara saw something in those pauses. Something impossible. Your neural activity, the alien said slowly. Between your heartbeats, it does not decrease. It increases. You are thinking more, not less, in those gaps. Is that bad? Hana asked. I do not know, Velshara admitted. We have studied 10,000 species on 4,000 worlds. None of them do this. When their hearts pause, their thoughts pause too. But you humans, you fill the silence with noise. You fill the emptiness with something we cannot measure. Velshara moved closer, its crystal body reflecting the lights of the instruments. Tell me, Dr. Kim. When you remember your wife in those tiny pauses between heartbeats, where do you go? Your brain activity suggests you are experiencing something, but our instruments cannot follow you there. Hana did not know how to answer. She had never thought about it before, but now that the alien mentioned it, she realized it was true. In those brief pauses, she did go somewhere. Not physically, but mentally. She lived in her memories for just a moment, then returned to the present when her heart beat again. I don't go anywhere, she said finally. I'm still here. But yes, I remember, I feel. In those small moments, I can experience things that already happened. Is that strange? Yes, Velshara said. Very strange. And very interesting. The alien dismissed Hana after another hour of tests. As she left the examination room, she heard Velshara giving orders to the other scientists. They needed to test all the humans. They needed to measure these pauses. They needed to understand what happened between heartbeats. Hana walked back to her room on the ship, her mind full of questions. What had the aliens discovered? Why did it matter what happened between heartbeats? Those pauses were so small, so brief. How could anything important happen in such tiny moments? She sat on her bed and placed her hand over her heart. She felt it beating. Lub-dub, lub-dub. And in the pause between beats, she thought of Minji again. Just for a fraction of a second, she was with her wife again, seeing her smile, hearing her laugh. Then her heart beat again, and she was back in the present. Alone on an alien ship, being studied like an interesting puzzle. But for that one tiny pause, she had not been alone at all.